In this lesson, I'm going to show you a very simple example on how to use form validation in AngularJS. Validation in Angular is extracted from the DOM, from the attributes and types of fields that you're using. This is all pure HTML5, and Angular reads this information so that you don't have to type stuff that's already present in your HTML. Example, the required attribute, which is part of HTML5, Angular will know then that this field should be compulsory, and if the field is not being filled out, then this field is invalid. The other thing that Angular pays attention to is the type of element. So if we specify that a field is of number type, it will be invalid if it has something that's not a number. Same thing with date and other kinds of fields. Angular creates objects called by the name attribute of the form and the form fields. So for example, in this case, we'll have an object called expense form. We can access that object, and our object will have a few properties that will be of our interest. The first one is called valid. So that one will show us whether the form is valid or not. This is also present for individual fields, so you can also try an individual field, not just the whole form. In this case, it's not valid because two compulsory fields are empty. Let's write some numbers there, some information. So now it's valid. What if I type something that's not a number? Then it's invalid again. How can I use this to prevent the form from being saved? Because so far I can just save this. Well, we're going to use a simple Boolean operation here. So I'm going to have two things and the AND sign. So if the first expression is false, this whole thing will be false and this won't even be executed. Whereas if this is true, then the browser will try to run this one as well, and when it runs it, well, we're saving. So now, just by doing this, we have very basic form validation. But we can't save, and if we enter something valid, then we can save. Cool. Something else I want to show you. Angular adds specific CSS classes to the different values to the different states for forms and input fields. Let's inspect this and look at our console. See how the form, for example, shows class ngPristine. ngPristine means that it hasn't been touched yet. It hasn't been made. Nobody has written anything yet. So as soon as I start writing something, it's no longer pristine. It's now dirty. We also get the class ngInvalid required because one of the required fields is not being fulfilled, and we would get other kinds of classes if we have, for example, invalid number. The same thing applies for the individual form elements. We get invalid dirty, invalid number, ng touched. So that gives you a lot of freedom. You can access these properties as well from the objects that are created. Last thing I want to show you, what if we want to show a form level error message when the form is not valid, but I don't want to show it at the beginning because at the beginning I haven't written anything yet. So of course it's not going to be valid, but I want to show it as invalid as soon as I start writing stuff. So I'm going to copy and paste that particular piece of code and add it on the top of the form. It's going to be a Twitter Bootstrap alert element. So I'm going to use the ng-show directive, which will show something if the expression inside is true. The expression inside that I want to test is the form dirty? So basically it's not pristine and is invalid. Let's give this a try. I reload the page, and of course the form is not dirty, it's pristine, but as soon as I start writing, it's now dirty and we get that error message. So by using this and specific CSS, you can add specific CSS classes and rules and find the full documentation here. By using all this stuff, you can make very simple but yet powerful and useful forms.